I could still feel the splinter in my palm hours later. That's how tightly I'd been gripping the wooden beam, holding my breath in the attic while Sarah's footsteps creaked up the stairs. The envelope with my name on it, Connor's messy handwriting, was under my mattress now, but my heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it through the floor. "Emmy." Her voice was sugar, but her tone had an edge sharp enough to cut. "You up here?" I bit my lip and kept still. Her shoes stopped just outside the attic door. For a moment, there was only silence, the kind of silence that made you taste blood in your mouth because you were biting down too hard. "Nightmares again," she called softly like we were sharing a secret. "I keep thinking about Connor. About our little hiding spot up here. Did you ever go back there?" I could see the faint light from her phone through the crack under the attic door. She was waiting for me to answer, but I didn't move. When her footsteps finally retreated down the stairs, I let out a shaky breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My whole body felt like I'd been electrocuted. I pressed my forehead to the floor, let a few sobs escape into the dust, and then crawled back to my room, my hand clutching the letter like it was the last piece of my brother I had left. That was the night everything shifted. 3 months earlier, I was sitting cross-legged on the kitchen counter, arguing with Connor about which movie we'd marathon for New Year's Eve. He wanted something loud and stupid. I wanted something sad and artsy. We compromised on watching both, just to make Mom roll her eyes at our film festival. 6 days later, I was standing outside the funeral home, my blanket clutched to my chest, the winter air biting at my cheeks as strangers told me he's in a better place. He wasn't supposed to leave. Not like that. Not when we'd just been arguing about popcorn flavors. Everyone kept saying it was a sewer slide, like that word explained anything, like Connor's life could be summed up in one final, impossible act. And then, as if we weren't drowning enough, Mom sat us down a week later and said it like she was reading off a grocery list. "Sarah will be moving in with us. She's 4 months pregnant. It's what Connor would have wanted. We need to make her feel welcome." I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. But Dad nodded, like this was just another logical step in a list of tragedies we were supposed to accept without question. So I tried. I really did. When Sarah walked in with her 2 suitcases, one hand on her stomach like she was cradling a glass globe, I helped her drag them into the house. She smelled like vanilla lotion and hospital hand sanitizer. She cried into my mother's arms and called her Mom, something she never did when Connor was alive. They gave her Connor's room that same night. At dinner, she took his seat like it was hers by right. Dad even handed her Connor's favorite mug for coffee, like some ceremonial offering. I wanted to scream, but Mom just smiled sadly and patted my hand. "She needs us right now, sweetie." This is what Connor would have wanted. What Connor would have wanted. That became the family motto, as if repeating it enough would make it true. The next few months blurred together. Sarah's presence seeped into every corner of the house. Connor's car, his laptop, his playlists. His hoodie was suddenly hers. My college fund? Transferred to a baby fund for Connor Jr.'s future. I bit my tongue until it bled, smiled for the endless prenatal appointments, baby shower plans, family photos with Sarah in the middle like she'd always been there. At night, I played Connor's favorite song, "Here Comes the Sun," on a loop until my mom banged on the wall and told me to turn it off. My grades tanked. Nobody noticed. The breaking point came on what would have been Connor's 18th birthday. The Arctic Monkeys, his favorite band, were playing nearby, and I begged Mom and Dad to let me go. Sarah smiled that tight little smile and said, "Actually, I rented the lake spot for the gender reveal that day. Connor wouldn't want us dwelling on death." Mom acted like I was selfish for even asking. Dad slammed his mug on the table, so hard coffee spilled over the rim. "You will be at the party," he said through his teeth. "You will smile. And you will stop making everything about your grief." Something in me cracked then. Connor didn't even want kids yet. He told me once in the car that he wanted to wait until he was older, until he felt ready. Well, Connor isn't here to want anything, is he? Sarah said quietly, and for the first time I saw something cold in her eyes. That night I locked myself in my room and cried until I couldn't breathe. After the party plans were made, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. My box of Connor's things was gone. Tickets we'd saved, the bracelet he'd made me, even his notes, gone. Sarah smiled when I confronted her. "You were having trouble letting go." "I donated them. I wanted to tear the house apart." Instead, I turned to Connor's laptop, hoping for scraps, voice memos, maybe a video. What I found made me nauseous. Searches about leaving a pregnant girlfriend. Screenshots of texts between Sarah and some guy named Mike. Journal entries. Pages and pages of Connor, feeling trapped, scared. And then, the last entry. "If you're reading this, something happened to me." I put the letter in the crawl space. At 2 a.m., I grabbed a flashlight and climbed into the attic. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. Behind the loose board was the envelope with my name. Connor's handwriting. He'd written everything. How Sarah had been slipping things into his coffee, how she admitted the baby wasn't his, how he was recording her, building evidence. And then I heard those footsteps. The next morning, My parents staged an intervention at breakfast. "You've been struggling," Dad said in a calm voice that sounded like someone else's. "Sarah already found us a family therapist. You're starting next week." I argued. I begged. Sarah just sipped from Connor's mug and said sweetly, "She's wonderful." We were sorority sisters. At school, the principal called me in for concerns about my behavior. Sarah had been calling them, saying I was obsessed, unstable. That night, Sarah caught me with Connor's journal pages and tore them up in front of me, hissing in my ear, "Don't make me upset, Emmy. Not when I'm carrying what's left of your brother." I started hiding flash drives around the house. I uploaded everything to cloud accounts Sarah couldn't touch. Jade, my best friend, snuck me burner phones so we could talk without Sarah tracking us. Her older sister Emma, a nurse, confirmed Sarah had picked up Connor's prescription for sedatives 2 days before he died. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Sarah tightened control. Family calendar. Check-ins. Therapy sessions where everything I said was twisted. But I kept digging. Through Jade, I found another family in another town, Tom Chen's family, whose son died under the exact same circumstances. Pregnant girlfriend. Life insurance payout. I started an anonymous blog. Posted timelines, evidence, audio files. Sarah's mask began to slip. She screamed at me in private, smiling in public. She tried to hack my accounts. I locked everything down. Jake, one of Connor's coworkers, told me Sarah had been laughing and taking selfies in the parking lot right after she told everyone Connor was abusive. The night I showed my parents Connor's letter and the USB drive from his car, with recordings of Sarah admitting to drugging him, my mother finally looked at me differently. Like she saw me for the first time in months. Sarah showed up to dinner in full widow in mourning mode, hand on her bump, telling stories about Connor like we were her audience. I put the USB on the table and pressed play. Connor's voice filled the room. He sounded scared, angry, determined. Sarah went pale. Jake spoke up. Emma backed me. Even my uncle admitted Sarah had manipulated him too. And then the knock at the door. Police. Not for me this time. They escorted Sarah out. My dad standing like a stone pillar in the doorway, Mom clutching my shoulder. "You'll regret this," Sarah screamed from the car. "Connor was weak, just like you." But I didn't feel weak. Not anymore. We changed every lock. Installed cameras. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. I started real therapy, not the one Sarah handpicked, and for once, I told the truth without fear it would be used against me. The blog became a network for other families. People sent me stories, warnings, tips about Sarah's past aliases. Months later, she was arrested in another state under a different name, running the same scam on someone else's family. This time, the police had everything they needed. On what would have been Connor's graduation day, I visited his grave and told him the whole story. How his courage saved me. Saved us all. When I left for college, I wore the bracelet he made me, faded, fraying, but it stayed on my wrist like armor. No one at school knew my story, and I liked it that way. I wasn't the crazy sister anymore. I was just me, ready for whatever came next. Carrying Connor's strength with me. Knowing I had fought for the truth